Hey everybody, I'm Dave with Garden the Home Garden. Fall is an amazing time of the year to start collecting and gathering seeds of some unique plants that you can get started in the fall, and then they'll do their natural winter stratification over the cold season, and in the spring they'll start to germinate. And we're going to go through several types of seeds today in this video that you can do this with. And the first one we're going to start with are these Japanese maples. Now, I don't have a Japanese maple that's producing seed here. My mom actually has one, so I collect them from her tree. But the first step that I do is I soak them. And take a look at this right here. These have been soaking for about 48 hours at this point. 24 is usually sufficient for it, but do you see all that brown kind of yellowy type of substance in it? That was clear at one point. It was just regular water being soaked in. And what has happened is that the tannins inside and any kind of growth inhibitors that were in the seeds have been soaked out of it. The other thing that soaking does for Japanese maple seeds is that it allows the seeds to absorb as much water as they possibly could before planting, which will help them when you're wanting to trigger germination. So Japanese maples and maple trees of all kinds come in these samaras, and it's basically just a winged seed that kind of helicopters down from the sky. It's kind of fun to play with when you're a kid and dropping it off a front porch somewhere and get to watch it kind of circle around as it goes down. But this little wing here is not even necessary. You can just kind of pinch that off, throw it away, and then soak the rest of it. But you don't actually have to take off the samara in order to do the soaking and everything. It's just something that makes things look a little bit better, and maybe it's a little less material to have to worry with. It's entirely optional. You can just put the whole bunch of seeds into a container, soak them for 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours or so, and they will be just fine that way. So to soak the seeds, I'm just using this jar right here, and I'm going to carefully put them into the container. I am not worrying about the winged samaras on this batch. I did remove the other batch, but I've got a whole lot more seeds in this particular set of them. So I'm just going to push them in, make sure that they've got lots of contact with the water, and we'll give them about 24 to 48 hours, and I've got some seeds sticking to me right there like that. You'll note that some of these look like they're brown, and while others look like they're a lot more fresh, where they've kind of got this green reddish tint. These are just about ready if they're not already ready, so they're okay to go ahead and pick some of them this late in the fall, and they will do just fine. Generally, the fresher the seed is that you're dealing with, the better your germination rates are going to be. So for this first batch of Japanese maple seeds that I did the other day, I am going to go ahead and plant them in this pot, and this pot is going to stay outdoors. I will cover it with something to keep the birds from coming in and kind of digging around in it. And I have had trouble in the past with little critters like, say, chipmunks or rodents of different varieties, hopefully not the kinds that are of an unusual size or anything, but you want to make sure that you're protecting them. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of spread these around into this pot. And I'm surface sowing them at the moment because I'm going to come back and add a small layer of soil up above each of these seeds. But at least this way I can visually see where all the seeds are going, kind of spread them out so they're not clumping together too much. A lot of times when you have them coming directly out of the water like this, they will stick. So we're just going to spread them around. And I did not count how many we have in here, but if I were estimating, I'd say we probably are over 50 Japanese maple seeds in this one little pot. And my plan is usually that after we've got germination in the spring, then I will transplant them into some small pots for each one to grow on their own. And I'm not going to take this water and pour it into here to water it because it may have some growth inhibitors in it, and we just don't want those to be inhibiting growth. So there you can see all the seeds that we have in there. There's quite a few. They're just resting right on top of the soil surface because the next step is to give them a light layer of soil. Okay, so here I just took some soil from another pot and I'm just going to cover them all up here and give them just enough that they're all underneath a little bit of soil. They don't have to be terribly deep, because if you think about it, Japanese maple seeds, or maple seeds in general, typically just kind of float on the wind and land somewhere and get covered up in the brush. So you don't need them too deep. I'm going to press down the top of it a little bit, and then we're going to give it a little bit of water on top. Just enough water to wet it down. And now I'll show you what I'm going to do to cover them. So now I'm going to cut a piece of row cover cloth like this, which is very kind of thin. It allows light and water to get through just fine, but should protect it a little bit from birds and rodents. And I'll just cut a piece off that's big enough to cover, and I'll tie it on. So here we go, we have it all tied on. I just use the cloth itself to tie a knot on either side of it, and this will keep it nice and tight. And hopefully in the spring we'll start to see some germination. You can kind of see a little bit through this little covering, and if you start to see some leaves, that's a good time to start taking things off so they'll be able to grow uninhibited. So the Japanese maple seeds are in the container here on the left. On the right is a container of viburnum seeds that I took from the berries of it's the viburnum nudum, which was the brandywine viburnum. So I'm trying to grow them from seed to see how they grow, and we'll get some of those established out into the natural areas that we've got here. So the next thing we're going to talk about here are these berries right there. And as you might be able to guess, these came from dogwood trees. Cornus Florida, although they've changed the name to something else, I'll keep calling it Cornus Florida for probably forever. But what we want to do is we want to separate out the pulp that's around each one of these individual seeds. And one of the best ways to do that, and you can do this with magnolia seeds as well when they've got that red flesh around them, is just to soak them. So we're going to use the same jar as I used a minute ago with the Japanese maples. I've cleaned it out and I've rinsed it and I've refilled it. So all we're going to do is we're going to throw those berries into there, and we're going to give them some time to soak. Probably we'll give them about 24 hours. They'll soak, and then once they do soak, this flesh will be very easy to just squeeze right off. In fact, sometimes you can even squeeze it off right now, just like this. And you do want to get rid of the pulp when you're planting these because there are growth inhibitors inside there. So that's what one of those little dogwood seeds will look like. And I see something very, very bad that we don't want. Check that out right here. See that little, I guess it's a maggot, some sort of a bug that's in there trying to eat those. So that is definitely not something that we want. We'll squish that little guy so we don't have to deal with him. Hopefully there aren't too many others of these seeds that have that in there. They may not be bothering the seed as much as they would be bothering the pulp itself or the fruit. So that's another good reason to go ahead and clear those out if you do happen to have some sort of little bug like that in there. So we'll put that in here, let it soak, and then we'll check out what we've got here in about a day and see what kind of seeds we actually have from these dogwood seeds. So because the maggots were in these, what I did is I put a little bit of dish detergent into the water, and I just kind of let them sit in the water for about an hour. Hopefully that would kill off anything. They were probably a fruit fly type maggot in them. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to actually squeeze out the seeds from these early, clean them out so I can get rid of all the pulp, and then I'll go ahead and plant the seeds. I would give them a full day because some of this pulp is, I don't know, it's kind of hard to push through when it's fresh like this, but I'd rather have clean seed with no maggots in it to plant into the pot. So there we go. There are the seeds separated out. You can see all the extra pulp over here. I only saw a couple of those little maggots in it, but better to be safe than sorry. These will go now directly into a pot of soil and we'll get them going. And so we'll just go through the process of planting these into this container. We'll put a whole bunch in here. We don't know how many are actually going to germinate, but we can always transplant if there's way too many in here. We'll spread them out a little bit so they won't be right up against each other. So once we've got germination, we'll need to go ahead and get these transplanted pretty quickly because we have a lot of them in a small pot. So once we do this, we'll cover with a little bit of soil, and then we will cover again with a little bit more row cover cloth. So the seeds I have in this piece of paper here are not everybody's cup of tea. There's a lot of people who don't like this tree that these came from. These are from sweet gum trees. They produce those spiky gum balls that a lot of people have trouble with, whether they're just walking around in the yard with the spikes kind of interfering with their footsteps, or mowers. It can be a problematic tree, but it is a very good tree for wildlife. Great tree for fall color. So if you've got a place that's a little bit more out of the way, it can be a decent tree to put. You probably don't want it anywhere around your direct yard space or near your house because they get very, very large. But these particular ones came from what I think is slender silhouette, which is a variety that grows in a column. These were in a church parking lot, and we just picked up a couple seed balls that were on the ground and let them sit for a couple days, and eventually they expelled all the seed. So here you've got the seed in these little things that look like small little tiny maple samaras. They've got a little bit of a wing pattern to them. And then all this other stuff is just the chaff. It's completely disposable. But I don't even worry about separating this out because you really don't need to. So all I'm going to do for this one, and they don't need soaking, you can go ahead and plant these directly into your pots, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it around on the surface. We'll give it a very light covering of some soil, just enough to kind of cover things. I watered the pot ahead of time before I did this, and we'll give it a little bit more of a soaking so the top stuff can dry, and I might fill in a little bit more soil on top of it because typically when you water, things settle. So we'll add just a little bit more to cover the top. And then we'll do the same thing we did with the Japanese maple seeds and give it a cover with some row cover cloth. And there we go. It's all set, ready to have some protection from the birds or critters coming around, and it will still allow light to come through. It will still allow moisture to come through. And here I have added it to my collection of winter stratifying tree plants. Right here, I'm going to do one more, and it's going to be the beautyberry that I purchased the other day. So here's my American beautyberry plant that I planted the other day. And the seed collection on a plant like this just couldn't be any easier. Just put a cup or something under it, and you can just kind of fiddle around with the little berries, and they will come off very easily, just like that. And I'm not going to strip the whole plant of them. I'm just going to take enough that I think I can get some things off of it, because I want to leave these berries out for the wildlife, for the birds to enjoy. That should be plenty for my purposes right here. In the spring, I plan to do some propagation on this, and but for right now, this will be nice to just go ahead and get started in doing some overwinter stratification of the seeds. So, and just like the dogwood seeds, we are going to fill this cup up with some water, let them soak for a while, probably about a day, and then we'll be able to remove the pulp off of them very easily. They don't absolutely require cold stratification, but they do benefit from it. So I'm going to go ahead and pot them up just like I did the other plants and sow them into a container so that they can naturally stratify over the winter time. That is the absolute easiest way to stratify anything, is to just let Mother Nature take its own course. So cold stratification is a natural process that seeds have learned over the millennia, and they've developed it so that they don't germinate at the wrong time. And what it does is it simulates the natural weather patterns that seed is used to. So some seeds are going to need 30 to 60 days or so of cold. Some will need longer than that. Some will need 2 cycles of that. It all just depends on the different varieties of seeds that you're trying to plant. In general, if you follow the natural cycle of the weather in your area for your native plants, that's probably going to get you the closest match to what that seed is going to need. So for us, we're planting in the fall with a lot of these things outdoors so that they can just enjoy the natural cycles. Now, if you want to simulate it a little differently, you can put a little bag of peat moss together, a little bit of moisture in it. You don't want it too much. Put your seeds in that little bag and then put it in the fridge, not the freezer. It will allow it to kind of simulate that cold weather pattern, and then when you bring it out in the spring and you're ready to plant, hopefully it will have everything everything it needs to go at that time. Now sometimes, even if you give it the proper amount of cold stratification time, the seeds do not grow, they do not germinate. But don't give up on them just yet. Sometimes they take a little bit longer, sometimes they may need a second cycle to actually go through before they will germinate. Some are really tough, they'll have tough seed coats, like say the red buds that I did a while back. They actually started germinating more of them after I posted my last video about it. So I actually got some extra red buds that have been coming along. And some of that is the timing. So I'm letting those go a little bit longer, and we'll see. Maybe this coming spring we'll have a whole lot more actually grow from that batch. But just be patient and give your seeds plenty of time to grow. So here's what they look like after everything has been covered. I've got some Japanese maples, viburnums, even though I didn't feature those in the video. I just pretty much put them in with the full berry into the soil mixture just to kind of see what would happen there. So we'll see how those go. But we got the Japanese maples, we got the dogwoods. This one has about 62 seeds of Magnolia grandiflora, which is the typical southern magnolia trees. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these all do. So hopefully this video was very interesting to you guys. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching.